Marble can become almost anything. It can become skin. It can become fabric so thin it appears transparent. It can become hair, feathers, the folds of a robe caught mid-movement in stone. But there is one thing marble cannot become: a net. A net is mostly empty space, thin threads crossing over and under each other with nothing between them but air. To carve that from a solid block, you would have to remove the stone between every thread without snapping a single one, working for years, knowing that one misplaced strike would destroy the entire structure instantly. And when the carving was done, you would then have to polish every thread by hand, because the professional stoneworkers of Naples looked at what had been carved and refused to touch it. No one had ever attempted it. And in 1752, in a small chapel in Naples, a Genoese sculptor named Francesco Queirolo decided he was going to try. The sculpture is called Il Disinganno, the release from deception. It stands in the Sansevero Chapel, and even in a building packed with the most technically audacious marble ever carved, Queirolo's piece is the one that stops people completely. From across the room, you might assume the net draped over the entangled figure is a separate element. It is not. Every crossing, every gap, every knot where you can see through to the body beneath, all of it was carved from one single block of stone. Subscribe to Carrara. What you are about to see should not physically exist. Queirolo spent 7 years on the net alone, not on the sculpture, on the net. The figure, the angel, the globe, the Bible, all of that came before or after. 7 years went into carving the threads, the gaps, the knots of a single element. And he did it without a workshop, without an apprentice, not out of ego, but out of fear. He could not trust anyone else not to destroy it. The technical problem was not just structural, it was sequential. To carve a net in marble, you work from the outside inward, removing surrounding stone and leaving threads standing free. But as you work deeper, the threads already freed become obstacles, fragile projections in the space where tools still need to move. Every cut deeper into the block put the earlier freed threads at greater risk. There was no way to protect them, no way to reverse a mistake. And when the carving was done, the problem did not end. The polishing phase requires pressure. Pressure was what the net could not survive. The professional stoneworkers looked at the finished carving, understood what polishing it would require, and walked away. Queirolo polished every thread himself, by hand, knowing that the process of finishing could undo everything in a single moment. The historian Giuseppe Aurelia, writing in 1754, while the sculpture was still being completed, called it the last and most trying test to which sculpture in marble can aspire. Not one of the most trying, the last. He believed the medium had been pushed to its absolute limit and that nothing further could be asked of stone. Nearly 3 centuries later, no sculptor has proven him wrong. Now look past the net, because the net is not what this sculpture is about. The man entangled in the marble mesh is Raimondo di Sangro, Duke of Torremaggiore. His story is not flattering. When his wife died, Raimondo's mother, Antonio abandoned his infant son, left him with his grandfather, and disappeared across Europe. The chapel's own plaque describes what followed as a life enslaved to youthful passions. He traveled, spent, and lived recklessly for decades. Only in old age, exhausted and repentant, did Antonio return to Naples and enter the priesthood. The sculpture was commissioned by the son, by Raimondo. The man who ordered this impossibility, who designed every detail of its iconography, was the child his father abandoned at 1 year old. The entangled man is his father. The net he is struggling to escape is the net of his own choices, the accumulated consequences of a life wasted. The angel freeing him represents the intellect and faith that finally pulled Antonio out of what he had become. And the open Bible at his feet carries a Latin passage that translates as, "I will break thy chain, the chain of the darkness, and long night of which thou art a slave." This means the most technically impossible sculpture in the history of marble is, at its core, a son's act of forgiveness, carved in stone, so it could never be taken back. Raimondo could not undo what his father did, but he could pay for the most expensive, most technically demanding, most permanent form of absolution that existed. Queirolo carved it, but he did not design it. Every detail of Il Disinganno, the composition, the iconography, the symbolic program, came from the man who commissioned it, Raimondo di Sangro, Prince of Sansevero, and understanding Raimondo is essential to understanding why this sculpture means two entirely different things depending on who is reading it. Raimondo was a nobleman, an inventor, and a practicing alchemist. He built a carriage with cork horses that drove across the Bay of Naples on paddle wheels. He developed fireworks that detonated with the sound of bird song. In the basement of this chapel, he kept two human skeletons wrapped in an arterial system so detailed that for centuries people believed he had injected living servants with a substance that metallized their blood. A 2008 analysis confirmed the systems were artificial, but the legend persisted because Raimondo cultivated it deliberately. He was also the first Grandmaster of Neapolitan Freemasonry, and he had been excommunicated by the church. An excommunicated man cannot build a church monument, but he can commission a private chapel sculpture and encode into it everything the church forbids him from saying openly. If you read the open book as one of the three great lights of Freemasonry, alongside the square and compass, the entire meaning shifts. The flame on the angel's forehead is not a Catholic symbol. It is human intellect, the Masonic principle. The bas-relief of Jesus curing blindness maps directly onto the Masonic initiation ceremony, in which blindfolded candidates remove their covering to receive what Masons call the new light of truth. The net is not sin. The net is ignorance, and the entire sculpture becomes a coded map of spiritual initiation, designed by a grandmaster who had lost the ability to speak freely. Subscribe to Carrara. The most dangerous things are hidden in the most beautiful places. There is a question the sculpture has been asking for nearly 3 centuries. Is the net what you came to see? Or is the net preventing you from seeing what you came for? Raimondo understood how attention works. The human eye, confronted with something technically impossible, stops at the surface. The veined skeletons in the crypt operate by the same logic, a legend so compelling that no one investigates what is underneath. The veiled Christ in the chapel's center works the same way, a surface so extraordinary that the theological argument it contains goes unexamined by most people standing in front of it. The net in Il Disinganno is the most astonishing surface in the history of marble sculpture. Queirolo spent 7 years carving it. Professional stoneworkers refused to finish it. A historian declared it the absolute limit of what stone could become. But the net is also exactly what the sculpture says it is: a trap, something you can be caught in, something that holds you in place, while the thing that matters, the angel, the open book, the flame of intellect, the bas-relief at your feet, waits patiently for you to look down. The Sansevero Chapel will not resolve it. The Catholic and Masonic readings sit inside the same stone, inseparable. The net is sin, and the net is ignorance, and the net is the most impossible thing ever carved from marble. The net is still catching them now.